Hi there, my name's Chris Mackey. I'm the Digital Assistant Director at the Health and Social Care Alliance Scotland, and we're here today to talk about the analogue to digital phone switchover. And we've got a number of people who are very interested in this topic, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, starting with Sodhi Dhillon. Welcome, Sodhi.
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Sodhi Dhillon. I work for BT, also known as EE, and I'm a digital voice engagement manager. So I'll be talking today about the landline switchover.
Thanks, Sodhi. Caroline, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dr. Caroline Gold. I'm a member of the Alliance's Digital Citizens Panel. I live in a remote rural area, the Isle of Skye. I'm disabled, so a person with lived experience of a disability, and I've worked with an organisation representing elderly and disabled people for over 2 decades.
Thank you, Caroline. Geraldine.
Hi there, my name's Geraldine Ward. I live in Newthill, which is a semi-rural area of North Lanarkshire, which brings its own problems as well. I'm not as unlucky as Caroline is, because I know there's lots of problems in the Highland areas. But as we go on, I'm hoping to be able to tell you the kind of problems I have. But I'm looking forward to the digital switchover, I have to say.
Alex.
Hi, so my name's Alex Barker, and I'm a disability consultant for AbilityNet. We're a national organisation that helps older and disabled people use technology, and we've been asked to come along to this podcast to give people information about how they can get technical support with the switch over to digital voice if they need it.
Excellent. Thanks, Alex. So we're going to start with Sodhi, who's going to talk through the information that he has around this switchover. Obviously, there are some general sort of pieces of information to get across, but what we want to delve into in this podcast is the specific issues facing people who have health and social care needs, specifically those with long-term conditions, people with disabled people, and unpaid carers. So without any further ado, we'll hand over to Sodhi, who's going to kick things off, and then we'll have a period of Q&A and discussion. Yeah, thanks so much for your time this morning, Sodhi. Handing over to you.
Great. No, thank you, Chris. So what I'll do, I'll start off just by giving a bit of background and explaining what the actual switchover is and what it entails for customers. And then, as you say, I'm happy to take questions for more detailed topics. So what we're talking about here is the actual landline, so the old traditional telephone system that we all know and love. It's not being taken away, but the current technology that powers this network, some of it is over 100 years old, most of it is around 30 to 40 years old. And it's the actual network technology that is being decommissioned. So we're not taking the landline away. We're having to move the technology that the landline works over. I mean, say the network is old, it's very power hungry, and it's no longer fit for purpose. Now, this is a once in a generation upgrade. It's happening across the industry. It's been happening across the world. So the UK is not the only country to be doing this. And what we're moving to in general is a more resilient, more efficient, future-proofed and sustainable network. Okay. So the landline isn't going away. For most customers, it's going to be as simple as just reconnecting or changing the way your phones are connected in your home. Okay. For customers that have broadband, we'll be moving the phone service to work over the broadband connection. So for those customers, it means unplugging the phone from the wall socket and plugging it into the back of a hub or router that will be provided by your communications provider. Okay. Now BT, that new service we call Digital Voice, as you may have heard it mentioned. Okay. But there will be other products, other ways that we convert customer lines to digital, especially for those customers that don't have or don't want broadband. Okay. Now, there's lots of benefits for moving to digital voice. Just to clarify some key points as well. In all cases, customers will keep the same phone number. So there's no change to your landline number. There's no cost or extra cost of moving to digital voice. We're making a change. So there's no price change driven directly from this change. Over 99% of existing telephone handsets are compatible, so you don't need to rush out or change the handset you're using or know and love. The new digital voice service, it comes with much better scam protection. We've got AI powered scam protection built into the network, and we've already seen, I think, over 70,000 scam calls blocked with the new system across customers that are already using the new digital voice service. It's working digitally, so the call quality is generally better. There's no more hissing or crackle on the line. It's a full digital end-to-end service. And there's also additional features, network features like three-way calling built in to the new service. Okay. Now, in terms of how the switchover is happening, we're taking a regional approach. So we've already rolled out digital voice to over 2.5 million customers across the United Kingdom. And we'll be coming to Scotland from July onwards to start rolling out digital voice across customer groups. We'll continue migrating customers up until the end of the programme, which is the end of January 2027. Now, what we are doing, we know there's a lot of customers that need extra help and support, and their landline is a lifeline. So we're not going to be, in the initial phases, migrating customers that are, for example, landline only, customers who are in an area of no mobile coverage, customers that are elderly, or customers that we know have additional needs, like they use medical pendants or they're extremely vulnerable and will require extra support. We will provide extra support for those customers to help them with the migration. So we're migrating those customers at a slightly later date. Okay. In terms of how we contact customers, we will write to customers as and when we're ready to migrate them. Every customer will get at least 4 weeks notice, and the communications will explain what happens, what the switchover date is, and what support is available. Okay. So I hope that's given a kind of brief overview. I'll take questions.
Could I ask Geraldine Ward here? I have a problem with my connection drops often just because I'm in a semi-rural area of North Lanarkshire. Can I ask, will the digital switchover help that to stop happening as often?
It's a very good question, Geraldine, and I would say yes, most certainly. As part of the landline switchover, we're working with Openreach, who are the actual network provider, to upgrade the connections to customer premises. So most customers over time will be moved to a full fibre connection. So we're replacing the wires that go from the exchange down to street cabinets and pavement and into your own home. In most cases, we're moving customers to full fibre where it's available. That means you've got a much more resilient connection that isn't affected by weather or poor connections and should completely remove the dropouts that you're facing.
Now, the problem is I don't have access to fibre because where I live is a wee country road, basically. So, in that case, am I maybe just going to have to put up, maybe get Not as bad, but it still will happen for me because I don't have full fibre.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, Openreach are trying their best, but we know that it's going to take them quite a while to reach everyone, and there will be some areas that are very difficult to serve. In all cases, we believe that the connection from the exchange through to pavements, green boxes, will be swapped out to fibre. So a big chunk of that wide connection, if it hasn't already, should be replaced by fibre. And then, I mean, if you have got a dropout, we always recommend customers report it, because that shouldn't happen. But appreciate, because of the wiring lengths and everything, that could happen. But once you switch to a digital connection, because of the way it works, like the digital TV switchover, it is a more reliable connection, and it does get over some of the problems we see on current lines. So yeah, fingers crossed, your service should improve either way, even if you don't get moved to full fibre.
Okay.
You say there's going to be no extra cost. What about elderly people who don't have broadband, have a landline, they pay a rent on currently, and then pay the price of every phone call, including very expensive prices to mobile phones? How are they going to be paying, and what are they going to be paying?
Okay, so again, a very good question. Thank you, Caroline. So customers that don't have broadband, so landline only, will be launching a new product later this year called a dedicated landline service. And that allows us to convert the line to digital at the exchange. So there's no actual work or changes required in the customer's own home. They will carry on using their phone as they do today. So there's no extra equipment or need to take broadband. The actual move doesn't affect their current pricing package, but what you do highlight is one thing we do need to make everyone aware of is that we, BT, along with other communication providers, do provide a range of social tariffs. So customers should contact their provider, especially if they're in receipt of any benefits, because we have a package such as Home Essentials, which is around £15 a month, and that includes a package of calls as well. So yeah, we have those tariffs available, but it's important for customers to make sure they contact their provider to see what they're eligible for.
So people who aren't used to negotiating contracts are going to have to learn to do this, but also with social tariffs. Are these means tested? Because a lot of elderly people refuse to be means tested.
The social tariffs we offer, they do rely on there's an eligibility criteria, and I believe it is down to them receiving certain benefits. So not fully means tested; it's just an eligibility criteria. Okay. There is information available, and I can share the details with this group of those social tariffs and how customers or someone on their behalf can contact us to arrange those.
Do you want to cover just while we've got the opportunity, Sodhi, just around different providers and how they're approaching this? Because obviously you're presenting from a BT perspective, so some of our members and people tuning in will maybe be Virgin Media customers or others. So can you just cover that, please?
Yeah, it's a very good point. As I said, this is an industry-wide change, but the actual timings of when customers get moved to digital and how they get moved is down to their individual communications provider. Now, there's two main network operators who provide the actual infrastructure in the United Kingdom. One is Openreach, and Openreach are working to move. Well, Openreach have actually told all their communication providers, of which we're a customer, so the likes of Sky, TalkTalk, Vodafone, that they'll be switching off the landline service from the end of January 2027. So all of the communication providers that use Openreach's network will need to ensure their customers are moved off the old landline by that date. Okay. It can vary by product as to when they do it, but most providers will be aiming for that date. And again, your provider will contact you as and when they're ready to move you or make changes. Virgin Media O2 have their own network, They're making the same changes for the same reason. It's an out-of-date network and they need to upgrade customers. They have been working to the date of the end of December 2025, and they're taking a slightly different approach to us. But again, they're contacting impacted customers and advising them of the changes. But they're working to a slightly more aggressive time frame at the moment.
Can I ask another question, please? Living in a remote rural area where our electricity supply tends to be overhead as opposed to underground, we're very used to getting power cuts, often for days on end. And I certainly have a friend in the Shetlands who recently had a power cut that lasted something like 7 or 8 days. I'm wondering what is in place with this new system to cover things like that, especially when people are reliant. I mean, for example, if I want to call an ambulance, I have to bite my Telecare button, wait till somebody answers and comes on and then tells me, and then I have to ask them to phone an ambulance for me. And I'm just wondering what is going to be in place for power cuts in this new digital system.
Yeah, again, a very good question, Caroline, and you highlight one important fact around the switchover. So today, the landline, it's powered outside your home. So the power will come from a green box in the cabinet or from the exchange. It's not immune to power cuts, the current network, but generally if your power in your home goes off, the landline has still worked. Now, with the new digital voice service, for those customers that are on broadband and they've got their phone connected to the hub or router, then you quite rightly point out that hub or router needs to be kept powered in order for customers to be able to make and receive calls. So for customers who are impacted by power cuts, we are providing resilience solutions. So again, if you are a customer who's impacted by power cuts or worried, you must let your communication provider know. We BT have two different options. We have a battery backup unit that we can provide to customers, or a hybrid phone. Our battery backup unit is designed to meet the minimum requirement or exceed the minimum requirement set by Ofcom, which is for at least 1 hour's battery backup. But it will last several hours longer. And appreciate your point, Caroline, that in some cases customers are left without power for days. Now, unfortunately, with the current technology, we don't have a solution that will provide power for days. We are working on longer duration battery backups that will significantly extend the current time frame. So those will be coming out over due course. We also offer a hybrid phone. So this is a phone that will work over the digital voice service in normal circumstances. When there's a power cut, it's got a built-in battery and it can connect over the mobile network, and that lasts for several hours longer than the battery backup units. But again, that's only offered to customers where we know they're in receipt of a good mobile coverage. Now, we're also working closely with the power network companies, and if customers aren't aware, the energy companies offer what's called a priority services register. So we'd recommend customers, if they aren't already, are registered with the priority services register, so that power companies can prioritize those vulnerable customers in the event of a power cut to make sure the power is restored as quickly as possible.
Okay, can I just say that prioritizing customers doesn't really appear to happen here, and I'm actually finding it quite frightening that it's reliant on a mobile network, many of which we don't have, or the network masts go down when there's a power cut because they are not powered alternatively during a power cut. And a battery backup lasting a few hours really concerns people that I represent, because if they need an ambulance, they've got no means of calling for one.
Yeah, you are right to flag these concerns, and I've got to say, even with the current network, most exchanges aren't backed up. They rely on temporary batteries or wheeled-in diesel generators when there's significant outages. So we don't actually have that level of resilience that's needed across the network in some cases right now. But we are working to boost that level of resilience where needed. So where we know there's areas of frequent power cuts, those exchanges will have additional backup facilities made available.
So, my question is, do you think BT are doing enough to allay some of the fears that people with disabilities might have? Because I know that I've been on sessions with you in various parts of the countries where people who are older and perhaps disabled are just really, really worried about the change. And even when you talk to them, they seem quite reluctant to want to change, don't they?
It's a very good point, Alex. And we are, and I'll try and answer this question, but we know there's a lot of customers out there who are very anxious, very worried by the changes going on. So we're doing, two main things. One is we are providing additional support, and we're also working with special interest groups to support and reach out to and support vulnerable customers and those that require help. So, for example, customers that are vulnerable or need any help, when we contact them about arranging the switchover, we will offer them engineer visits, and those are free of charge. So if customers need help, they can ask for an engineer to come and attend and make any changes, set any equipment up for them as needed. Now, we've also set up a couple of years ago now a digital voice advisory group. And on that group, we've got representation from key charities that support customers, such as Age UK, Independent Age, the RNIB, I think it is, got Carers UK, Hearing Partners, and quite a few others. And we've been working with them to make sure that we, provide the right contact and the right level of support as well. We've also got a regional engagement campaign, and from July onwards, and from July through to August, we'll be running a series of engagement events across Scotland. We're visiting every local authority area. This is our first phase of engagement, and we're going to host a series of drop-in sessions. So customers don't need to book. We've got a website where we've listed where the events are taking place. We'll be writing out to customers in each area, especially those that are more elderly, more vulnerable, and inviting them or any representatives there to come along to these sessions. They can just drop in anytime. They don't need to pre-book, and they'll be able to speak to a member of staff and go through any concerns they've got and let us know what kind of support they need. Okay.
Could I ask a question, a follow-up question? I'm just listening to you. I mean, I know all about these. You're going to have these meetings and everything else. Do you think it's advertised enough?
We try to do our best. There's always a challenge. I say we write out directly to customers in every area where these events are taking place. We're working with the Alliance to promote the events.
Yes.
We're working with all the local authorities and the Scottish Digital Office to raise awareness of these events. So exactly like this podcast, we'd like people to promote these events and raise awareness. They are aimed at BT customers, but it's absolutely fine if a non-BT customer attends, because we're happy to explain to them generally what the changes are that are happening.
Okay.
I just wanted to revisit the point about the social tariffs, Sodhi. Can we just be absolutely clear? How do people apply for those if they feel that it might be something that they would need?
Sure. Generally, every communications provider should offer a social tariff, and they will have different ways of contacting them. For us, customers can just contact BT either via our website or you can contact us on 0800 800 150. There should be a number on your bill as well, and just contact us and just say that you'd want to inquire about a social tariff.
Can I ask, what are you doing to inform elderly and disabled customers that their analog phones will no longer work in a power outage? Because here every household has an analog phone because they know once it's plugged into the socket in the wall and they have a power cut, it will still work. What are you doing to inform people that this will no longer be the case? Because a lot of people will continue to believe it.
Yeah. So when we contact customers about digital voice, it is explained in all the literature. So we do clearly highlight the aspect that phones plugged into digital voice will not work in the event of a power cut. So that's clearly communicated on the initial communications that goes out to every customer. Okay. As well as that, we've got information on our website, and again, our engagement events will also be highlighting at this point to customers as well.
Okay, and I would follow that up with when there's a power outage for several days, what's going to happen, because there seems to be absolutely nothing in place for elderly, disabled, or vulnerable people. And that is a huge concern because although you say, if there's a power outage, the electricity company, has to know that it's got vulnerable people. I've been on that list for my electricity company for decades, and I've only once ever, I use an electric wheelchair. I need to be able to charge it. I can't when there's a power cut, and the only thing I have ever been offered is to travel 17 miles down a single track road to a caravan thing they've set up to get a bowl of hot soup. So the support that you are assuming is in place doesn't exist in my experience and many other vulnerable people's experience.
I mean, that is really disappointing to hear. And say we will try and do our best. We won't move customers until they're ready. I mean, that problem sounds like it exists today, and I know that part of our exchange is that they just won't have that level of backup today when there's long duration power cuts. But we are, as well as the resilient solutions we're providing, we do highlight to customers that where possible, to use mobile or have mobile phones backed up and charged up to use, because again the mobile network, we are also boosting the resilience of the mobile network. So the masts, as part of this program, we're ensuring they have improved backup and resilience. So we do resilience in two ways. One, by having multiple masts, so in case one mast fails, another mast can provide coverage to the area. And secondly, by having temporary generators that can be sent out to mobile masts just to provide that extra level of resilience. But again, I know there isn't a straightforward answer on this one, Caroline, but we are working closer with the energy companies to make sure that, what we can try and do is make sure that those vulnerable customers are highlighted and flagged up to them. But unfortunately, we're a telecoms company. We rely on the energy companies to maintain that power service.
And unfortunately, as a remote rural area, we don't tend to have engineers living in the area, and we have to wait hours on end before the weather improves so that they can come out and deal with the power cuts and things. And therefore, I am really anxious that vulnerable and disabled people are not being covered properly here. And there is a limit, I understand, to how long they can continue on an analog line before it's cut off completely. And it just seems that they don't seem to count anymore in society.
I wouldn't say that. And, in most cases, this change won't make anything worse. If ever, if anything, it'll improve service. This change directly itself doesn't increase the risk of a power outage or your phone not working. So we will provide resilient solutions, and those resilient solutions that we're providing, the battery backup, that will improve over time. And there is a solution that we're working on, which will potentially allow significantly longer duration backup by going into a temporary standby mode. So that might be one of the solutions that would address the kind of concerns you've got, where customers are without power for several days. So hopefully later on in the year, we'll be able to provide more details of that battery backup solution.
Sodhi, I was just wondering about Telecare, and because you mentioned earlier about 99% of handsets being compatible. So obviously for people accessing Telecare, they'll have other devices there. Has there been a kind of an analysis of these other, like pendant alarms and so on, as to their compatibility with the new digital network?
Yeah, that's a really good topic to highlight, Chris. So we know there are lots of other types of equipment that are connected to a phone line, and some of these will be impacted. So the primary ones for residents, there are, as you say, medical pendants, those healthcare alarms, so the pendants you wear around your wrist or around your neck, and also things like monitored burglar alarms. So these are monitored alarms that will dial out and call an alarm receiving center when they're triggered. So what we ask as part of our engagement and when we contact customers is to let us know if they have any equipment such as healthcare alarms, medical alarms, or alarm devices, to let us know, and also contact the providers of those services to check compatibility. Now, we have been working with the Telecare organizations since 2017. We've done a lot of work with them to help us identify customers with those Telecare alarms. They've also tested those alarms against the new digital voice services. So they'll be able to advise if your existing alarm is compatible or whether they'll need to upgrade it. What we are seeing as part of this change is a lot of Telecare companies are also taking this as an opportunity to upgrade customers' medical healthcare alarms to much more resilient digital alarms. So just summarizing that, key thing is, yes, there are devices that may not be compatible with digital voice, such as medical pendant alarms and monitored burglar alarms. If you have anything like that, please make sure your communication provider is aware, and then also contact your provider who will advise on compatibility.
Can I ask why there doesn't seem to be any feedback from BT? I don't know about other providers, to people who have already told them this. And in the last few weeks here, we've had several leaflets delivered telling us that we're about to be switched over from analog to digital. And that's caused quite a bit of alarm amongst disabled, vulnerable people, elderly people, because they've notified their provider that they are vulnerable, but there's been nothing they've received to acknowledge that.
Okay. That's a good point of flag, Karen, and I will feed that back to our communications team. So as we're gearing up for our regional migration campaign, regional migration across Scotland from July, we have been sending out awareness communications, and that I think has gone out to everybody, regardless of whether we have them flagged, as you say, as vulnerable or having Telecare devices. And we know that's caused some concern. So I will feed this back to the team. But you do make a good point that because at the moment we have got significant numbers of customers identified as having some kind of vulnerability or impairment or having Telecare, and we haven't proactively written out to them yet. So any customers that are vulnerable or have Telecare that we know of, we won't be contacting them to migrate their service. They have inadvertently received awareness communications. But again, if any customers who do start getting contacted or feel that they shouldn't be migrated, they can obviously just contact us and let us know, and we will pause their migration until they're ready to migrate.
One of the questions that I've got, Sodhi, and it's really interesting that you've not mentioned done so far is, are the Scottish Government supporting you? Because it seems to me that there are some infrastructure issues in Scotland in terms of technology, and I'm aware that BT and the energy companies can only do so much. So I wonder if you're getting any government input and how that's going.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we have been working with the Scottish Government and primarily the Scottish Digital Office. I have to say they've been excellent. From all the regions in the United Kingdom, we've seen the Scottish Government take a leading role in putting together a kind of comprehensive digital readiness program across the essential service providers in Scotland. And that's not just for the landline switchover, that's in general about moving to more digital services. So, the support from them has been excellent, and they've been helping us raise awareness, and they've been coordinating with the Telecare providers and providing guidance on the switchover.
Could I just ask one? Sodhi, you mentioned about three-way calling will be able to happen with the new digital system.
Yes.
How easy is this going to be for people who are disabled or elderly or have manual dexterity impairments to manage and understand? And I mean, will there be instructions given to them that they can look at when they want to do it, to know how to do it?
The network features, they're designed to be as accessible as possible, so they can be accessed via either voice tones, so you can speak instructions, or via the buttons. And they've been designed to work with existing phones. So we know customers may have big button phones, they may have phones or amplified phones that they're used to. So all the features are designed to work with existing technology to make them as accessible as possible for customers.
I actually have the hand dexterity problems as well. And what I've been trying to do is use my computer to use a voice control. So I haven't really seen that for the actual accessing the phone line or anything like that, except my mobile. But that's good to know.
Yeah, I don't know about other providers, but is BT going to provide something that allows a disabled person, and especially one with a manual dexterity impairment or a sight problem, to get through to speak to somebody rather than actually having to repeatedly go through numerous options and then their hand not work properly and then they press the wrong button and have to start all over again. I mean, I recently, as in yesterday, was on for over 3 hours to BT. Because again, for the third time in 3 weeks, my Telecare system went down because the landline, it just kept giving me a message, the landline has been disconnected. And it is absolutely soul destroying having to try and phone through various options and press buttons and mispress and start all over again. I mean, my days these days seem to be spent 5 hours every Monday to Friday trying to phone a large organization to get through to them and having to wait hours to speak to someone. So I would ask that large organizations like BT actually consider our needs and allow us to have some sort of voice prompt or something that we can say a specific word which will automatically get us through to someone. Because I have difficulty just holding a phone, let alone pressing buttons. And I have to say it is soul destroying when you can't actually speak to someone. Because things have changed and apparently we can all go online and do it. Well, we can't. So again, I would ask that those of us who are disabled and elderly or vulnerable, that we are included as equals in society and are able to actually, get the information we need when we need it, or be able to give the information we need to give to remedy situations such as what I had yesterday and the day before.
I think that's an excellent idea, Caroline. The voice prompt thing that puts you a wee bit further up in the queue, because you'll have all these. I mean, I press so many wrong buttons just because of my shaking hands and things like that. The voice prompt thing would be a great idea.
And I have a separate landline in the house because I have to wear a headset, and I can't have the headset on and press buttons. However, it's just so awful having to and off-putting having to contact an organization that just isn't designed for your needs.
Yeah, no, I can sympathise with that, and I know we probably haven't made it. Collective as an industry, we're probably making it more difficult, and it's not easy to contact us in some cases. I will take this feedback back, because it's a really good point about maybe offering some kind of prioritisation feature to get through. We have been over the years improving our contact us facility, and there are a wider range. I'll double check, but I think we already offer some aspects where you can voice prompt, so go through the menu by speaking rather than having to press buttons. And there's also a callback feature as well, which if you haven't used, I would recommend, whereby you don't need to be sitting there waiting in a queue. You have the facility to request a call back, and that is so much more convenient. But I will flag back what you've suggested. It's a really good point.
Well, can I point out that as somebody who uses a powered wheelchair, and it can take me up to an hour to transfer, it's no use for me when somebody rings the doorbell or phones me if I am nowhere near my headset, which has to be being charged all the time when it's not in use. So these, like calling us back at any time not to suit us, doesn't work. And this is these are the little things that I do believe large organizations need to learn about.
Yeah.
Because we're very often just assumed to be sitting around all day doing nothing. I work, so there is just an underlying assumption in society we do nothing but wait for a call at any time.
No, definitely not the case. And you also reminded me to flag that for this program particularly, the digital voice switchover, because we need every customer to be engaged, fully aware of what's happening. What we've done is made it easier for you to nominate a third party to act on your behalf. Even simple things as to contact us or to be copied in to the order communications. You can nominate a third party. There's no need to set up a power of attorney or anything complicated. But we've introduced that feature. So if you've got anyone else who can help you, that they can act on your behalf and get copied in on order emails and instructions.
I appreciate that, but most disabled and elderly people want to have their own control over their lives and to be able to do things independently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if there's no more questions, I just want to kind of wrap it up by saying that, for this change, the digital landline switchover, it's important that customers, are reassured and not worried. As I said, your landline number won't change. There's no cost to this change. You don't need to buy an additional equipment. Your existing phones, in most cases, over 99%, will be compatible. And it's the communication provider who's leading this change. So your communication provider will contact you as and when they're ready to make changes to your service, and they'll explain what you need to do. So please don't be misled by anyone else. Wait for your communication provider to contact you.
Thanks so much, Sodhi. Thank you, Caroline, Geraldine, Alex. Thanks to you listening. And the Alliance will be publishing information through our website and newsletter about the switchover and how you can contact people for support But as Sodhi says, there'll be information going out to customers in due course when the switchover is happening. So please do reach out for support if you need that. But yes, thanks to everyone concerned, and we'll draw this podcast to a close.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
For further details on BT Digital Voice, go to www.bt.com/broadband/digital-voice. For support for customers with additional needs, please go to www.bt.com/help/here-for-u. A video on digital voice with sign language is available on YouTube. Digital Citizen Panel. For more information about the work of the panel, please contact dhcscott@alliance-scotland.org.uk.